Okay, everyone, I think I'll start. I think people have gathered. So, hi, I'm Éanna. I'm a journalist with Science Business. I'm wearing a shirt for one of the first times this year. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this hour-long workshop. I'll tell you the purpose of the session and how it's going to work. So the session will discuss how COVID-19 has dramatically impacted aerospace. And in light of the severe economic downturn we're now facing into, we're going to question what should be the research agenda for the next 5 to 10 years. Do we need to shift our ambitions? Do we need to even downgrade our ambitions a little bit? So we're going to find out. So we'll hopefully gather specific recommendations on R&D. What should be in the next EU research program, Horizon Europe? Should it be more of the same for aerospace, or does it need to be dramatically different now? So we have Jean-Éric Paquet. He's the EU's Director General for Research and Innovation. He's speaking in plenary later on today, and we're going to feed him 3 or 4 of the top recommendations from our session. So I'm going to encourage the audience later on to ask questions. Do note that this session is being recorded and it's on the record. So you can ask questions in the chat box above. You can specify also if you want to be given the floor to ask your question, and we can arrange that later on. So I welcome questions, recommendations, suggestions, anything you want to contribute. So anyway, I'm going to introduce my panel. So I have Sandra Bour Schaeffer. She's head of Airbus Demonstrators. She's also CEO of the Airbus Innovation Lab, Airbus UpNext. I have Giorgio Gulienetti. He's head of Research and Development Policy in the Chief Technology Office in Leonardo. And I have Joeri de Ruytter. He's Ambassador of Research and Technology, Business Development and Partnerships in Honeywell. So welcome to you all. So now we've read that it's the worst crisis in aviation history. So my question for the people here who are closer to the action than I am, just how bad is it for aerospace? Could it do lasting damage to research and technology developments in Europe? So I'm going to go to Sandra first, who will give her initial thoughts for 2 or 3 minutes. So I'm going to pass to Sandra now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Éanna. Thanks for the warm welcome. Indeed, we all know that this is the most severe crisis our industry is going through. If we compare it to peak commercial aviation, we are down 90%. If we talk about Airbus commercial, we are down 40% compared to the production rates we had a year ago. So it is the biggest crisis we have ever had in the industry. And it is also a very crucial timing because we were heading to a very important transition in our industry. And we do believe that commercial aviation is absolutely essential to the global economy. But it comes with an environmental cost, and we were very much committed to decarbonize this industry, which, in addition to the current crisis, obviously puts a huge burden on the industry. So towards your question, is it still valid? Yes, I believe it's still valid. Sustainability and decarbonization is still what we are aiming for. Our ambition continues to be developing the first zero-emission commercial aircraft by mid-2035. And yes, we need the financial support, and we need the support of the EU and the member states such that this aerospace sector can actually get out of this crisis and pave the way for carbon neutral aviation.
Thank you, Sandra. That was perfect. So I'm going to pass over to Giorgio now for his initial thoughts. Giorgio, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Éanna, for giving me this opportunity, and thanks for the organizers as well. I would very much concur with Sandra. Yes, it has now proved to be the worst crisis we've had in quite a long time. So we're all definitely very much impacted. So I'm not gonna carry on that. But I do not think that what were the early objectives, again, Sandra mentioned many of them, should change because of that. Certainly, one might consider some modifications to adapt to, I would say, minor changes that might be needed. But the bulk and the core of it should stay about the same. So we're all hoping that the situation will recover. And when it will recover, we will definitely still need to have all of our activities with a much lesser carbon footprint. So that's needless to say. It is certainly, we've learned that becoming more digital is definitely important. And this digitalization has to be very, very pervasive. So it will have to go through all of our lives, or all the, I would say, the government structures and people and organizations. And even us, the industry will get more and more digitalized, and our products will benefit from this and will be more and more digitalized. I'm thinking of aircraft, and we've started that already, and making all aircraft much more digital, and benefiting of all the digital technologies can give us in many areas. I'm thinking of the digital twins, whereby we use the equivalent in digital of whatever element of an aircraft, but also on board of the aircraft, much more digital than what used to be analog. And so inside the aircraft, more digital communication, from the aircraft to the outside, more digital communication, and therefore also very important is the air traffic management element of aviation, that is still, I would say, analog in many respects. So there is a lot of room for improvement in that sense. So all of that will not change, or will not have to change. I would stop here, and then we can continue in the next minutes.
Great, thank you, Giorgio. So similar to Sandra, you're saying we still need greener aircraft. We still need to incorporate digital more into aerospace. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Joeri now to get his initial thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, I could definitely line up with what was said before. As we all know, society hasn't changed, or needs have not changed. The environment hasn't changed. We know very well already that we need for environmental footprint in order to be sustainable over time, and make the next generation also be able to live in good conditions. So COVID or not, COVID could be seen as a short term, although we all believe personally that it's taking longer than we all want to. It is from a transport sector point of view, it's like a short term impact. So the long term objectives remain the same. We just have added some more challenges to it now. The attention to cabin air quality, or the hygienic measures at airport and stuff like that, maybe a new attention point. So, but the others have remained.
Great, thank you, Joeri. So at this point, I'm going to just remind people, come in with your questions. I can come to you at any time during the session. So do send your recommendations, your suggestions, questions at any time. Well, thanks for your initial thoughts. And I just wonder if you were able to speak to Jean-Éric Paquet, for instance, what would you say to him? What would you recommend he does with the new research program? Clean Sky is a program for aviation in the current Horizon 2020 program. Should that look much the same? Should it continue in the same form? Would you suggest adding to that? You mentioned new attention points. Should there be a direction of travel, new research on the aviation sector preparing for pandemics, envisioning pandemics? Is that something also maybe that could go into a new research program to make planes more virus proof? Just some ideas. I wonder what you'd say to Jean-Eric Paquet if you could recommend some things to him. Open for anyone who wants to come back on that.
Well, I can give it a start if you wish to. I believe to safeguard European companies' competitiveness, we need to develop Europeans' technological independence and innovation capacity. That comes through research, through investment in research. The R&D funding has been the cornerstone of Europe's leadership in aerospace in the past, and it will remain the cornerstone of Europe's leadership in sustainable aviation and in this digital transformation. So we need the EU, we need the member states to give their financial support toward this industry, but also to keep technological neutrality, such that we have a framework condition to allow a combination of different solutions and to take the best one that will make it through the market. We also need a level playing field, ensuring that European industry have the same financial and commercial opportunities as its global competitors. You mentioned a few frameworks, so yes, we need to maintain the funding in the Clean Aviation Partnership, in the Integrated Air Traffic Management Partnerships, in the Global Competitive Space System Partnerships that will clearly help the aviation industry as a whole to get through this crisis and really to prepare the next generation and this transformation we have been talking about on decarbonization and, as Giorgio really well mentioned, on digital transformation as well.
Very good. Thank you, Sandra. Anyone want to add?
I guess we can continue with the same tour of the table as we were doing earlier, unless there's anyone else that wants to come in which case I will leave the floor. Okay, so a very intriguing question, Éanna. What would I tell him? Well, first of all, well, I cannot but agree with Sandra with many of the things she as I did earlier, in terms of what really to do with the activities that needs to be performed. So, with some regret, I would say, with regards to the new European clean aviation partnership that has been built up, and that will hopefully start in 2021, which is the follow-up to Clean Sky 2. Now, unfortunately, for a number of reasons, the rotorcraft, in terms of demonstrators, were left out. So I would say that that is a pity, because yes, it's true, there are some activities in other parts of Horizon Europe for greener mobility and so on and so forth, but really there in Europe we are building very, very good and performing helicopters, rotorcrafts, and we have a clear leadership, and not looking at how they evolve, in consideration as well that there are a lot of other areas that will then pick up, like urban air mobility, where you will have also not only human to transport, but also freight to transport, and we know that there are a lot of operators that are looking at that with a lot of interest. So
you would broaden Clean Sky out to include helicopters.
So far, as it has been conceived, the demonstrator parts has been left out for a number of reasons, for choices, for the way they might impact globally on the CO2 emissions. So there are a lot of very good reasons for having done that. But I have to express that regret. First thing. Second thing, if I was to have some chance, you know, in the famous a lift going up to the 8th floor, well, I hope it should be at least a 12th floor. Just to give him a word, I would say, what the hell you're doing with all the rules? The rules for participations, the rules for the partnership, the way funding works. Okay, I think, in my view, with a lot of strain, with a lot of difficulties, I think we found a balance in Horizon 2020. For some strange reasons, there has been someone who said, no, hold on a minute, we could do better. You know, there is a small face that goes like this. Okay, my intervention of this is over. I can carry on later.
Well noted. Okay, well I'm gonna come back to that point about rules of participation, but invite Joeri into this now if he wants to add some thoughts.
Yeah, I could add and summarize in a way. So definitely from a Jean-Éric Paquet's point of view, I think we have good ingredients and good tools in our hand in Europe to come through the crisis altogether. And all sorts of crises, including wars and so on. Working together has been a prime thing that really helps the society forward. So the instrument of PPPs has become very, very important in that sense. Even if you compare it to the past, we should, rather than discuss and debate them and overload them with red taping and so on, really make sure that they flourish. To make sure that these PPPs have the conditions to work with, that industry get attracted and find the good ways, so to say, to become a member and to feel their role into it, and to fill their role into it. So in that sense, the great plea is just like a farmer, prepare the land well, make fertile land that attracts the investments from the industry, so that they can answer and prepare for the needs that the market may have, and these needs may change over time. So going back also to Giorgio's point, limiting what Clean Sky 3 or the European Partnership for Clean Aviation will be doing is probably an interesting exercise, but maybe not the best. I would leave changes possible when, for instance, the market also will change over time. But just make sure that the conditions are attractive enough that they foster collaboration.
And do you think there's a risk of overcomplicating it? Have you seen examples of this where the rules are just a bit too discouraging for some people to take part, or not?
You ask me then, or this is
another question?
Well, being in those discussions, of course, you hear signals in that direction, and of course, not everybody can be satisfied. That's for sure. But if you listen to the bigger players like Airbus, Leonardo, Thales, Safran, you know, they definitely may have a good say on whether we are overburdening the process or not.
Yeah. Okay. I think some of these companies you mentioned are here in the audience, so I'll just remind them to come in and give us their perspective if they want. I see we have a question in the chat box. I'm just going to call it out. I think this is a general question. It doesn't say who it's for, but it's how can you define responsible innovation relating to digitalization in aerospace? So I don't know if any of our panelists are particularly looking at digitizing aircraft. Is this something you're? Does this sound like a question for anyone in particular? Sandra, do you have any experience in this field, for instance?
I didn't quite understand your question, but clearly digitalization is part of the transformation we have to go through in all aspects. Giorgio mentioned ATM, air traffic management. We have to make it digital. We have to optimize it. If we look at the traffic today, let's talk about traffic pre-COVID. We knew that up to 8% of the traffic could be, or up to 8% of fuel burn could be gained just by optimization of the traffic. So this is one element. Of course, we are also preparing our whole supply chain and our industry to get fully digital. So the next airplane to come will be working with fully digital twins. We'll have a full transformation in the way we build the airplane, and digital is absolutely in the core of everything we'll be doing, from onboard system, from the way we manufacture it, and from the way the different parts of an airplane or helicopter or UAV will be operating. So it is decarbonization in digital are really, for me, the headlines of what this industry will be looking for in the years to come.
Thank you. And if I may stay with you, Sandra, because you work in Airbus UpNext, you see all these new technologies up close. I just want to get your feeling for, how painful is it at the moment for some of these startup companies or some of these young companies in this aerospace ecosystem? How difficult is it for them at the moment? What are you seeing in your role in UpNext?
Well, clearly, the talking as Airbus as group now, the first objective is to get out of this crisis and to be able to help our customers, the airlines, to recover traffic and to contribute to that. So this is absolutely essential for everything. It doesn't mean that in parallel we are not continue investigating different avenues. There are different time scales also to this. If we talk about the decarbonization objective, for example, in a first step, already replacing the existing fleet, the older aircrafts by newer aircrafts will have a huge impact already. So this is something we would encourage Europe, but also our customers to look at. Then there are short-term gains we could implement in a more optimized air traffic control management. We talked about it, for example. We have a project called Fellow Fly, which is a way that you could have two airplanes flying together, really mimicking what birds are doing and taking benefit of the updraft of the vortex of the previous aircraft to basically reduce the fuel consumption of the next aircraft. So this is something we could implement in the short term. And then, of course, we have to look at longer term. One of the short-term important messages as well is sustainable aviation fuel. So this is something where we would need also a wide collaboration. We need enough sustainable aviation fuel to be available. It needs to be available to a price which is makes sense from a business perspective to our customers. But these are all breaks we could implement in the near future. And then we are looking also at the far future, looking into the potential of hydrogen, for example, looking into more electrification, and looking into better autonomy of our aircraft, looking to support the mission of the pilots. So there are lots of things that have been considered and have to be put into the perspective, and it's really about having a whole roadmap covering short-term actions up to longer term and preparing this ambition of a zero-emission commercial aircraft by 2035. But truly, there will not be a single solution drive to that ambition. So it's up to those startups, it's up to the research institutes, it's up to the biggest companies, it's up to the whole ecosystem to try and see how we could put together different elements and breaks that will allow us together as a whole ecosystem to arrive to this final ambition, if you wish.
Thank you very much. Just a question now, a general question for whoever wants to take it. How would you evaluate the response from governments to the crisis? We know there's been rescue packages in Germany, France. Are they covering enough? Do governments need to do more to keep the industry alive? Are they Are these packages benefiting all the suppliers in the supply chain? Do governments need to consider extending furlough schemes? Just a general question for anyone. I know a little bit about I've been reading about the French rescue package, but I don't know what's happening in Italy, for example, Giorgio. So I don't know if you've any thoughts on that.
Oh, yes. Okay, so unfortunately, we were among the first in Europe being severely hit by the COVID crisis. And amidst all the various difficulties that the whole Italian system is going through, nonetheless, there are now, I would say, over the summer, because many of the measures were issued this summer between July and August. In Italy we have a ministry for industrial development. I would call it like this. We have Ministry for Industrial Development, an expert. That's what the E stands for. MISE. So the S stands for Sviluppo in Italian, which is development, and E, of course, is expert. And then we have another ministry, which is the Ministry for Innovation and Digitalization. Okay. So in line with, must confess, so in line with the aims that earlier strategies from the Commission, when I say earlier, at the beginning of this year, the new Commission, was issuing, first of all, the Green Deal document, an overall strategy. The Green Deal document with all the measures to improve the carbon dioxide situation, which have then led to preparation also of the various documents that led to Horizon Europe, and they have now been incorporated in many of the things that we see also in aeronautics. So from there, those documents, and then I would say also data strategy, which is another important document issued from the Commission that addresses digitalization of whatever can be digitized in Europe, in European society. So those things, I would say, are the ones that had a major impact on the new measures that the Italian government has put together to support, I would say, the Italian system as a whole. Okay. Then there are a lot of debates going on with Brussels as to how to best now use the money that have been in the Next Gen EU. But again, so the Italian government is coming forward with a lot of ideas and programs and projects to relaunch the Italian activities and society. So coming down to industry, where we are impacted, first of all, there are measures to make the life of industry have to come taxes. When they have to pay taxes, they make them an easier life. So postpone some taxes, lower some taxes, give some credit for the taxes. It's called credito d'imposta, which means that you can buy so the infrastructures you need and the equipment you need. You can and have the taxes deducted by the value of whatever you are buying. Okay, so this, in principle, should start a mechanism whereby we, the big companies, we buy things, we buy equipment that is manufactured by smaller companies in our supply chain. And they themselves can get benefits not only from the fact that we buy, but also from the fact that they can then buy other equipment, I would say maybe smaller to build equipment we need. So I'm just using some metaphors to explain the issues here. So, but that is, I would say, the most direct way the Italian government has put forward to help the situation. Then there is also, and so this in some respect and in some ways helps to reboot the demand. You see, because the problem that we're facing now from the aviation sector is that the demand for flight travel dropped. Okay, so that is the issue. No demand for flight travels, and no demand for aircraft. So it's as simple as that. So that is the problem. So what we hope is this demand for flight travel picks up again, and therefore the demand for aircraft picks up again. But when this will be on again, then these aircraft will not, should not be polluting as they used to do in the older configurations. Okay, so there are this type of measures. So measures to help rebooting and measures to help demand to pick up again. I would say this at this point in time, what they did, they helped this with putting some levies on the taxes we have to pay in terms of as an industry. I would not go away without saying that there is an important measure they put together to support Alitalia, which is the Italian flight carrier. And having a working Alitalia means working aircraft means, okay, amongst the 27 member states, at least a national air carrier that is still able to lease aircraft, which means aircraft that have to fly, which means aircraft that needs to be built. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Giorgio. Brilliant. You've made me think of another question now. I mean, does anyone want to predict what the shape of the aviation industry is going to look like after all of this is finished? You know, is it going to be vastly different? Is it going to return to pre-COVID levels? You know, is there going to be a market for some of these technologies that come out of the Clean Sky program? I wonder if anyone wants to take up some of these ideas and look into the future and predict what it's going to be like in the next 10 years.
Well, I do believe that aviation is key for the global economy. It helps connecting people, business, cultures. It brings social benefits. If you look at some remote areas, it's really a lifeline to connect those people to bigger continents, bigger areas where bigger cities are. Today, also 30% of the international trade in value is carried by air transport. 60% of the tourism industry is traveling by air. And pre-COVID, it amounted to 80 million jobs worldwide and contributing to 8% of the world GDP. So I believe that, yes, aviation has still a role to play. It has to transition. It has to take over this challenge of decarbonization, but I'm fully convinced that aviation as such is not the problem. The emissions are a problem and we have to tackle the emission, but aviation is benefiting the whole global economy, as I said, connecting people. So I do truly believe in its value, and it's up to us, our generation, to make it possible. Once we have gone out of this crisis, which is of, again, we've said it, unprecedented magnitude. We've never seen anything like that. So we also have to restore trust in air travel. But once we get out of this, I do believe there is a role aviation still has to play. and it's up to our generation to reach that carbon neutrality. And this brings us back to the research programs which are desperately needed to achieve those ambitions.
When you say restore trust, Sandra, do you think the inside of airplanes needs to look a little bit different now? I'm reading about innovations now to make planes more virus-proof. People are coming up with ideas like barriers for when you sit down in the aircraft. Are you seeing ideas like this come forward now? Do you think there's a market suddenly for these kind of ideas?
I think we need to respect more than everything the barrier mask that all the countries have put in place. I've been traveling a bit since the lockdowns were stopped, and I never felt safe in an airplane. But I think it's a common responsibility for all of us to make sure that as long as we do not have a vaccine, people are putting all these barrier masks in place, wearing face masks, and making sure that we protect each other. But this is true in an airplane, it's true at the workplace, it's true in everyday life. So I wouldn't treat the aerospace and the commercial aviation sector any different from the rest of our daily lives.
Very good. Thank you, Sandra. I'll turn to Joeri now. Do you want to react to anything you've heard? Do you want to make a prediction also on the future of the aviation industry? Is it going to look vastly different? How do you see it?
Predictions are difficult to make in a way, but we all know that the market is based on its demand, and demand is there for many reasons, for personal and for goods. So there's always a need for transport. And we all know we've come out of the woods by walking. We've been building cars because that made us travel faster. And then we also by boat and so on made things possible. Otherwise, we would still be sitting somewhere in the woods, or we still not have any industry and not even an iPhone and a webcam for today's meeting. So the demand is there. That makes the market a fact in a way. So there will be a market. Now the whole thing is that we as industry, and of course together with the rule makers, need to make sure that market can be supported in a good way, meeting higher level objectives, like we all need to travel safe and well, but also greener. As we all know, we have to do something about the environment. And I think all of the other challenges, we'll find a solution. We're humans, we adapt to the situation, we'll make it happen.
Okay, thank you,
And
Joeri.
I'm ready to come back on the question, will Clean Sky 2 deliver? For sure. It is a PPP, industry is there, industry won't invest if it doesn't come to fruition, if there is no market for it. And also the Commission won't put any money into something that they also don't believe in. So there's a good set of eyes that looks at PPPs, which is again a very good point to support PPPs, to make them really deliver. There is no way that these things cannot deliver.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there'll definitely still be a market for these kind of these cleaner technologies, even if the aviation industry is slightly smaller after this crisis? I guess we can presume that some of the airlines are going to be in a lot of trouble. They might not all survive, but you think there'll still be a good enough market for some of these technologies?
Well, aviation has always been green in a way. I don't know if you realize. I don't know why people think it is a non-green industry compared to others. So, but we are in a phase where not just the aviation industry, but also the automotives and so on are being pressed on again, that this is a very important part for society. And we're well aware of that. So we continue to do our best to make it even greener, as we already did. Mm-hmm. If you just take the numbers of a 747, already in the 70s, and you compare it to car transport and things like that. So aviation is by definition a good industry with technologies that I think for many people would even amaze themselves how good they work.
Okay, can I just comment? I've seen there is a question about how, there is a concern about some things that we are going to develop becoming too innovative, and that we are going to implement them too early. I would say, unfortunately, in the aviation industry, the situation is quite the opposite. The aviation industry is, to many respects, a very conservative industry where things are developed, tested, retested, and tested again before they actually get into and before they actually get implemented and included in the actually flying aircraft. Okay, just to explain the order of magnitude of time, what will be starting to develop in 2021 will be probably be implemented in aircraft 10 years later. Okay, so I mean in flying aircraft for commercial flights. Okay, so I'm afraid, unlike other industries where we have a phone and we see foldable phones in December and they are being sold in September. This is not the case for the aviation industry, particularly for the European research and development activity. We are speaking of developments that take around 36 months, which means 3 years to get to a certain technology readiness level, just to prove that the concept work, which means TRL kind of 4 or 5. Okay, then you have another couple of years to get a little bit higher and get to technology level 6, 7. Then before you get to 8, 9, which means you are in the market and you are in the commercial world, then it will take more years. And these years in the aviation industry are taken by what is called the certification activities. To have certification for a flying unit, it might take several years, several hours of flight time. So it's just to say that is not the problem. The problem is not that the technology get implemented too early. The problem is that there are pressing problems that need to be addressed, and the solution come in very, very slowly.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking that question up, Giorgio. I see that question came in from Anna Maria in the chat box. Thanks for sending us your question. And again, to anyone who's listening in who might not be looking at the chat box but might just be listening, do drop a message in there with a suggestion or a recommendation or a question. We can open your mic as well, and we can bring you in if you like. You just have to specify it in the chat box if you want to come in. We can do it that way either. So yeah, I'd love to hear from some of the audience if they want to contribute. We still have about 20 minutes, a little bit less than 20 minutes, but I'll push on in the meantime. I have a question here about just some of the reaction we've seen in Europe to the COVID crisis. A lot of politicians are talking now about reshoring, building up technology here, building up technological capabilities in Europe. And there's been some suggestion from commissioners, maybe subsidize some of this reshoring, maybe even legislate to bring some of this supply chain back. I mean, what do these kind of discussions mean for your world? You know, do you think they have some merits, or do you treat them with caution? Just an open question for the panelists here, if anyone wants to come in on that.
Okay, take the floor, because actually Sandra addressing this in her previous speech, but I didn't restate what she was saying. What you're talking about is, in some respect, is technological sovereignty. Okay, so in several areas of technology, there is definitely a need, and unfortunately, COVID has showed that we bring back some of the capabilities we had in Europe and some of the technology where we were leading in Europe. We take them back in some respect. Take back the capability of being able to compete at the same level as others are doing. Okay, so this is not only in the aeronautic industry, it is also in the electronics industry, in deep tech, in communication. So I might be easily referring to 5G in terms of communication systems, but also in the technologies for aircraft and in the aviation. It is important that we maintain this capability in Europe as well. This is why I was addressing the issue of the rotorcraft. That is something we have, and in the medium to long term, we might give it away because we're not in that. We're not innovating in Europe with local supply chains, with local capabilities, with people that are able to do that here. Okay. COVID has shown that if at a certain point everything needs to be stopped and everything gets tougher, obviously the various states will start to think about their own problems and therefore trying ways to get out of it on their own. So I'm not willing this to happen again, but certainly this has taught us a number of things. So definitely Europe has to be able to have a way to maintain leadership in a certain number of strategic areas, and that needs to be done. So that is what I am advocating here.
Great, thank you. Sandra or Joeri, do you want to address this issue?
Yeah, I could as well give a response to that. Is I don't like to look back, but look forward. And also maybe from an old saying, it needs to be dark before you can see the stars. I think we need to realize that we do have stars as well in Europe. And if we continue to provide a good environment for those stars to grow and to bring their results to the market, we will avoid things like needs that you just expressed to ever be part of a discussion again. So that's we could always look back and trying to reinvent the wheel, but I don't think that's going to help us at all. But if we look at what we have, how good we are in certain things, and make sure that the industry can flourish, where on a Commission level, on the European level, we can take leadership and show the way forward, set the right high-level objectives. That's how we're going to attract the investments and let the smaller, medium enterprises grow. Actually, the Clean Sky Joint Undertaking has done a very good job in that as well for the aerospace sector and the second program. So I hope they will have the means to do similar things again in the European Partnership for Clean Aviation, and so for CESAR Joint Undertaking and the other partnerships.
Sandra, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I concur to most of what has been said. I do believe in lots of great stars in Europe as well. We have an ecosystem which is good, from education, small industries, bigger industries. For me, for the EU and the member states, what is really important is that they allow us to have an environment that still foster that is not too directive. I talked about technological neutrality. I don't think it's about directing really the industry towards something, but allowing to have the Joeri, you mentioned as a farmer having the ground ready for the different industries to pop up and come with those technologies which will make it to the market. And having a level playing field is very important as well. We need to have the same, again, financial and commercial opportunities as our global competitors. And this is really something Europe and the member states can give us this framework such that the whole ecosystem can flourish.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm just looking at the chat box now. I see 2 questions have come in. So one from Andrea Ferrari here. Possible cooperation with other entities undertaking innovation to join forces and reduce risks. European Space Agency, I think that is, European Defence Agency, and other PPPs. Question about greater collaboration together. How do we achieve this? Is it desirable? Did the panelists think it's desirable? Then there's a question on cloud computing. I guess we're all more dependent on, we're all working remotely, and how important has that become for your industry now? Do you think it'd be helpful to have greater cloud computing, more collaboration on the clouds to sorry, I've paraphrased that badly, and then there's one other one. A lot of talk about liquid hydrogen as a sustainable fuel for aviation. Given the many challenges in terms of production, storage, volatility, safety, do you feel there is a credible path to explore on liquid hydrogen? That's from Chris Hainan. So we have a couple of questions there. Greater collaboration between some of these EU entities, hydrogen, liquid hydrogen, the feasibility of that as a fuel for aviation, and question on cloud computing. Do we need more of it? Do we need to somehow supply aerospace with more, and suppliers with more cloud computing? So I don't know where to go first.
I would take the first 2, the one on the cloud and the one on the collaborations, and I would leave the one which is the tougher to the others, because the one on liquid hydrogen, it's a tough question. Okay. And I would leave it to the others. I would take the first 2. Now, certainly on the cloud, there is an issue of having possibly cloud building and implementing capability. And to that extent, there is a good initiative that is called Sandra X, which should then be moving into something with a footprint from the European Commission, and then finding ways to then be deployed within the Digital European program environment. And that could certainly then help a lot of other industries, aviation industry included. Now, concerning collaboration with other agencies, I would say definitely yes. And I think this is also already envisaged within Horizon Europe. It was working well. And this maybe fits with the comment I was doing earlier. It has been working well. Obviously, everything can be improved in the previous framework programs. If you think that the Galileo constellation was built with money coming both from a European Union institution with a lot of activity performed together with the European Space Agency. Now, and that model should continue. For instance, there are a lot of activities in air traffic management that benefit from activities performed with satellite communication funded with the European Space Agency mechanism. There are activities for having drones flying using satellite communication, again using ESA funding. So there are projects to that end. they are maybe the second project or third project in a row from projects that were conceived under the framework program. Now I'm referring to framework program 7, but then the same is also happened in Horizon 2020. So that is certainly happening and can be brought forward. Now, as far as Horizon Europe is concerned, there is a specific chapter on defense that has started already with the preliminary action for defense research, which then has led to the European Defense and Implementation, the EDIDP programs. So other programs for defense funded under the European Union fundings, and the same will happen in Horizon Europe. There, again, there is already some activity together with the European Defence Agency in many aspects and in many activities that impact aviation, the military side of aviation. So my answer is yes, why not? Sure, it's going to happen.
Very good. I'll come next to Joeri. Do you want to respond to any of these questions that have come up? Some of these issues?
Yeah, you could. But on the subject of hydrogen, I think I'll leave it also as well there to Sandra. But you could say for anything that has been proposed, if we believe there is a future for it, we should at least try it. If you don't fail, probably you haven't tried hard enough. So I think it's not good from the early days on to immediately throw that off the table. Yes, there are challenges, but we're humans. If you look back 60 years back in time, in about 5 years' time, they built the Lockheed SR-71. There were challenges that were even bigger at that time that they tackled in just 5 years. Where 60 years later, we have lots of more technology to our hand. We have brilliant universities and research centers to work with. So I definitely would give it a chance. But I'll leave the final answer to Sandra on that one.
Very good.
I'm not sure there is a final answer. There's my feeling, yes, I do believe it's definitely a path we need to explore. Hydrogen has a lot of potential if we talk about decarbonization of our industry. It comes with lots of challenges, of course, but it's up to us to look into them, to resolve them step by step. There was a question earlier on safety. You must imagine that safety is just in the DNA of everyone in aerospace. I mentioned it previously to the panel. I was working in flight test and testing our aircraft. Really, safety is something you look at every single day. You cannot imagine the aerospace industry without having looked at safety. We have a track record in safety. This needs to stay, whatever the technology will be. So yes, there are lots of questions and challenges around hydrogen, but there are also lots of promising aspects around hydrogen. So I believe it's our duty to look into it and try to overcome the hurdles and see whether this is a feasible opportunity for the future. So in our demonstrator organization, we are looking into hydrogen and we are understanding and trying to see what are the showstoppers, how can we overcome them, what would be a meaningful future for hydrogen. Now, it's not a final answer. Will there be hydrogen on an airplane in the future? I don't know, but is it a credible path to explore? Definitely, yes, in my point of view.
Thank you, Sandra. So we have 3-4 minutes left, and I'm going to take a final sweep then with final thoughts from the panelists. I heard throughout the session, I heard some things that sound potentially like recommendations. Broaden, clean sky the program, keep it simple on the rules, obviously maintain the ambitions on digital and green research, regardless of how serious COVID has been, serious challenge. Take tech sovereignty seriously, but don't be too prescriptive for industries. Continue experimenting on technology, accept failure if it doesn't work out. And I guess there's more buried in my notes here, but there were some top line things I remembered. So as a final sweep, through the panel. If you want to give your final thoughts, your recommendations, we have the PPPs in Horizon Europe, but should we have other instruments, other support mechanisms for suppliers and the supply chain? I don't know. It's up to you guys to suggest some things. So I'll go back to Sandra again, and if you want to start us off.
Yeah, in terms of recommendation, it's really to safeguard the European companies' competitiveness. EU, and the member states need to help us developing this technological independence and this innovation capacity through the financial support, through technological neutrality, and through a level playing field.
Excellent, thank you. I'll go to Giorgio next.
Yes. Okay. You were asking something about do startups get involved? Do small medium enterprises get involved? How can they get involved? So there are ways to do it in the partnerships. So far in Clean Sky, there have been calls organized to have this type of actors coming on board. But there is also the collaborative research, which in Horizon 2020 and furthermore in Horizon Europe will help and have the specific tools to help startups and mid-caps and small and medium enterprises to get on board and benefit from fundings for research. So there are ways to do it. There will be also digital innovation hubs set in the various European member states, which will put together a framework of activities to benefit from high power computing, artificial intelligence, for a number of smaller entities that then can test before invest. If they have a good idea, they can get there, test what their good idea is, and then invest, and then participate to either collaborative research or to the calls that will be issued by the partnership. So there is a clear path, and there is a way also for the smaller ones to get on board on the aerospace research. So I hope I've answered to your question.
Sure, thank you very much. And then finally to Joeri for your final thoughts.
Yeah, there's a clear recommendation to move on. Also, as Ursula von der Leyen made it clear, digitization is in the top list of the agenda in Europe. So that is definitely helping us a lot in many ways, but also believe in the capabilities we do have in Europe and foster them or make sure they can grow by providing a good environment for it. So make sure that access to PPPs is an easy thing to do, that you find your way there as industry, and also that being a member is a valuable exercise and not overly burdened with red taping and whatever that kind of pushes you more away than attracts you. So in that sense, I'm quite sure we will make it. There are lots of skills in Europe. There is a goodwill, and I'm quite sure we will make it.
Okay, on that positive note, I'll sign off. Thank you very much, everyone, for your great participation and great questions, contributions from the audience as well. Thank you so much. And just a small note to say, if people want to watch the plenary session, you're very welcome to do it. Even if you haven't activated a profile yet, you can still do that within a couple of clicks. Just go onto the homepage and you should be able to find your way through it. Okay, well, thank you very much for thoughts, and a report will come at the end of this from me, so look out for that. Great, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Éanna. Thank you, everybody. Bye, panelists.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you very much.